Man, welcome back to another episode of the Simply Ball Dropping Podcast. I'm your host and the man behind the mic, K-Sap, man. Hey, we got to talk about this, man. As I was wrapping up the day, man, and watching Thursday night football, there were some reports out about the same things that we talked about of Shedeur Sanders possibly hitting the field this year. And there was one media analyst stating the fact that the possibility of Shedeur Sanders getting traded. And I came across an interesting clip of Tony Rizzo talking about that today on his show and exploding on Tony Grossi. But we're going to unpack all that here next, here on the Simply Ball Dropping Podcast. Well, guys, man, I'm here to tell you, man, y'all's boy Tony Rizzo, man, he's 10 toes down when it comes to Shedeur Sanders. Now, there was a conversation being had today about the possibility of Shedeur Sanders being traded during the trade deadline. And, you know, Tony Rizzo been a mainstay out there in Cleveland for ESPN Cleveland for many years. And, you know, his partner, Tony Grossi, he is probably the biggest hater of Shedeur Sanders that we have. Tony Grossi is so hell-bent on Shedeur Sanders' last game in preseason against the Los Angeles Rams and discounts what Shedeur Sanders did against the Carolina Panthers. This is the only thing that Tony Grossi can say about Shedeur Sanders is how he performed against the Los Angeles Rams, and says Shedeur Sanders hasn't gotten any better. He don't know the playbook. And, you know, after that Carolina Panthers preseason game, Shedeur Sanders met Tony Grossi in the tunnel and basically told him, said, why are you always hating? Why can you never have nothing positive to say when it comes to dealing with me, Shedeur Sanders? And we heard what Tony Grossi had to say. And we've heard Rizzo go at Tony Grossi many times in the studio when he talks about Shedeur Sanders. And like I stated, Tony Rizzo stands 10 toes down about Shedeur Sanders. So today there was a conversation being had on ESPN Cleveland on the Tony Rizzo show, and temperatures flared up in the studio where it's almost like Tony Rizzo wanted to go blow for blow with Tony Grossi because of what Tony Grossi keeps saying about Shedeur Sanders. And Tony Rizzo keeps on saying you're so hell-bent on that Los Angeles Rams game that you're not giving Shedeur Sanders credit for the Carolina Panther game. And why the hell do the Cleveland Browns have Shedeur Sanders on the roster if they don't want to give him an opportunity? They even went as far as to talking about the promotion, the quarterback too. And they was talking about Bailey Zappi possibly being named the backup quarterback to Dylan Gabriel against Sunday's game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Tony Rizzo went off on Tony Grossi. But look, before we get off into that, we've partnered up with Underdog Fantasy, and this is a word from our sponsor.
Underdog Fantasy is the best way to play fantasy sports. Let me tell you about the easiest way to get in on some WNBA and NBA action. Find your player, pick higher or lower, win you some extra cash. Pick between 2 to 5 players to fill out your pick'em entry, get every pick right, and win some serious cash. Use my promo code SBD23 and receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Now that it's football time, follow Simply Ball Dropping as I share my picks. Like I said, pick your player, choose your amount, win money. Make picks, win cash. Thank you, Underdog Fantasy, for the partnership with us. And thank you for using promo code SBD23 on Underdog Fantasy.
Now, guys, with that being said, man, let's listen to our man, Tony Rizzo, as he explodes on Tony Grossi in studio where temperatures flared, and I thought they was going to come to blows. Let's take a listen.
Shedeur Sanders before the deadline, Tony.
I don't think anybody wants him, Riz,
Okay.
I'm being honest.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
the Raiders passed them. Tom Brady.
Yeah, I know, but it's
knows
different
them.
circumstances now, Tony.
Well,
the
they got
Raiders thought
Pickett
Geno
now.
Smith. Wait. The Raiders
They
thought
got
Geno.
Pickett.
So the Raiders thought Geno Smith could play, and he can't. So for a 4th-round pick or 5th-round pick, you take a flyer on a guy. You don't think anybody would do that?
I don't, Riz.
Okay.
I don't.
Okay.
I mean, they
Why?
when they needed one, they asked for Pickett.
Why would no one want Shedeur Sanders?
Because I think everyone made their statement about what they thought of him during the draft.
Yeah, but Tony, that was 7 months ago.
Well, he's not gotten any better, Riz.
Well, they don't know. I'm just saying, but like,
They see the film of the Rams game
did they see the film of the Panthers?
and
game?
the kick. Yeah, I know. Yeah,
Oh.
that
That
Super Bowl
game. See,
performance.
to you,
yeah,
that
they
game
have
doesn't count. Okay,
Well, it
to
was
me,
the
that
first
game
game.
counted for something. It did. And by the way,
It's a
he
what
was
have you
playing
done
with
for
the
me
twos.
lately
By the
league.
way, he was playing with the twos. You're blatant. You just blatantly. The guy played with 4 offensive linemen that didn't make the team, and you're just dismissing that as if it meant
And he-
nothing. At no point did Dylan Gabriel play with 4 offensive linemen that are no longer on the team. Call it for
Well,
what it is. Please,
The league
for
knows.
the love of
The
God,
league knows
just
who
give
was
me
on
that.
the field.
For the
Riz.
love of God.
The league knows who was on the field. Okay, that's no excuse for anything. That happens to backup quarterbacks all over
Well,
the
then
league.
what in the world is
preseason.
this kid doing on the Browns roster now if he's as bad as you think he is?
It's not how I think he is.
As the
It's-
whole
it's-
freaking league thinks he is, according to you.
Yes.
You think the whole league
Yeah.
thinks he sucks. Why is he on a roster? Why is he taking up a spot? Why?
That I can't answer. That's
Yeah, you can't answer.
since April 28th. We've been wondering why.
Now, you heard what Tony Rizzo had to say, man. Now, Tony Grossi, man, like I stated to you guys, man, if you've been following this channel, man, we've been talking about Tony Grossi on how he hates on Shedeur Sanders. And Tony Rizzo was right for what he said about you can't give me nothing. You're standing on this Los Angeles Rams game. You don't account for the Carolina Panthers game. And he said, what have you done for me lately? Well, what has Dylan Gabriel done for you lately? What has Joe Flacco done for you lately? See, that's the thing that we talk about Tony Grossi when you talk about hate. Tony Grossi is a hater of Shedeur Sanders. And that's evident because Tony Grossi always gets exposed by Tony Rizzo when it comes to Shedeur Sanders. And that's why a lot of people on YouTube and the people that are covering the Shedeur Sanders story from draft day all the way to now have talked about Tony Grossi the way they've talked about Tony Grossi, because Tony Grossi, all he does is hate on Shedeur Sanders. This has nothing to do about, what Shedeur Sanders can do on the football field. This is just evident that he does not like Shedeur Sanders. And it's a narrative that he's pushing out there that Shedeur Sanders is no good. And just like Tony Rizzo said, people think the way you think because that's the narrative that you created, that Shedeur Sanders is no good. But then I heard you say yesterday that Shedeur Sanders has footsteps on Dylan Gabriel because one hiccup that Dylan Gabriel has, Shedeur Sanders is going to be in the game. So you're contradicting yourself, Tony Grossi. But Tony Rizzo always exposes you for the constant hate that you have. And, temperatures got a little testy. And I don't know if you was on the phone or if you was in the studio, because I think if you were in the studio, I don't know what would have happened. But it's funny that it always takes Tony Rizzo to call you out and expose you for the constant hate that you have on Shedeur Sanders. Y'all guys let me know what y'all think about today's video as we wrap it up for the night. Tony Grossi at it again. Tony Rizzo exposes him. I see everybody in the comments section, #salute. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, turn your post notifications on so you know every time Simply Ball Dropping drops another hot banger. Oh yeah, just in case I forgot. Tell a friend to tell a friend. It might not be for you, but it might be for them. And this is going to wrap up another episode of the Simply Ball Dropping podcast. I'm your host and the man behind the mic, Kip Sapp. We're going to catch you on the next one. Deuces.
Thanks for listening to the Simply Ball Droppin' podcast. Be sure to subscribe, like, and share on all major platforms.
That's all, folks.